Parashat Bamidbar, the Torah tells us about the camp of the Jewish people, how they camped and how they traveled in the wilderness with the 12 tribes divided up into 4 camps, 3 tribes per camp, and that each of those camps had a particular leader. And the first camp was called Machane Yehuda. It was the camp of the tribe of Judah and another 2 tribes. And the leader of this camp was Nachshon ben Aminadav, a man known as Nachshon. And the tribe of Yehuda was the one that went in front, in the vanguard. They were the leaders of the Jewish people. And from Yehuda, of course, comes King David and the whole Davidic dynasty until eventually Melech HaMashiach, the Messiah that we are waiting for to come, please God, soon and speedily in our days. Who was this man Nachshon? And why was he appointed to be the head of the tribe of Yehuda? And he has a very important position within the Jewish people. We know that Nachshon's sister Elisheva, in fact, was married to Aaron HaKohen, Aaron the high priest. But what really makes Nachshon such a famous character is the Midrash. And the Midrash tells us that when the Jewish people were camped at the sea, and the Egyptian army was behind them and was pursuing them, there was complete panic in the camp. And there were a whole lot of different reactions. Some people prayed. Some people said to Moshe, are there not enough graves here? Where there weren't there enough graves in Egypt that you had to take us out here to die in the wilderness? Let's go back. Let's make a peace treaty with them. And Hashem said to Moshe, just tell the people to move forward. Tell them to move forward into the sea. Don't you know that I'll fight on your behalf? Haven't you seen the miracles that I've done for you thus far? The 10 plagues that decimated Egypt. I'll come to your assistance. I'll save you. And Nachshon, as it were, took the plunge. He dived into the sea and he waded in until the sea reached up to his nostrils, and it was exactly at that point that the sea split. Nachshon was the one who went first into the sea. It could very well be that the name Nachshon is related to another Hebrew word, which is Nachshol. Nachshol means a storm at sea. He was the one that calmed that storm at the sea. Where did he get that power to be able to do this? And we have to go back to the history, to the ancestors of Nachshon. Of course, Nachshon comes from the tribe of Yehuda. And the Torah tells us a very interesting story about Yehuda, that through a certain event, Yehuda actually ended up marrying his daughter-in-law. He had lost 2 sons. They had both been married to the same woman, Tamar. And eventually, he married this woman, Tamar. And they had twins. When the first twin came out, so the midwife wanted to know that this was the Bechor, the firstborn. So she tied a little ribbon around his hand. It was shiny. So they called him Zerach, which means to shine. But just as he was about to come out, the other baby, as were, pulled him back and popped out. So they called him Peretz. Peretz means to break through the barriers. Whether this is gynecologically possible or not, I'm not 100% sure. But this is what the Torah tells us, that Peretz broke through. He wanted to get out. Peretz means to break out. And it is from this twin, this second twin of Yehuda, that Nachshon comes, that King David comes, that the Mashiach comes. And therefore the Talmud tells us that Melech Poretz Geder, that a king should have the ability to break through barriers. The king has to go in the vanguard. He has to go first. He has to know that sometimes he's got to just go with the flow and be a person who goes at the head of the battles. One of the incredible things about the Jewish leaders and the Jewish kings is that they didn't stay back in their castles and their palaces and send the army to war. They went out. If one reads the book of Samuel, you'll see that King David continuously went out to battle in the front until eventually there was a point where his general said to him, you can't go anymore. You're old, you're sick, you have to stay at home for your own health and benefit. We can't have the king die in battle. But that's what he used to do. He was in the forefront. We find this in modern Jewish history, that the great generals of the Israeli army, Moshe Dayan and others, Ariel Sharon, they were in the vanguard. They were right there because a follower has to lead from the head. This is completely the opposite of what the Talmud tells us, that in the run-up to the times of the Messiah, the heads of the generation will be like dogs. What does that mean? Rav Yisrael Salanta explained that when you take a dog for a walk, so it looks as if the dog is taking you for a walk. It looks as if the dog is leading. But when you get to a crossroads, the dog looks back to you because it doesn't know which way to go. And that's what happens today with modern leaders. It looks like they're leading, but whenever they have to make a critical decision, they always turn back to the public to see, should we do this, should we do that? Everything has to be by consensus. Sometimes a leader has to be bold. He has to take the first step. And this is what we learned from Nachshon ben Aminadav. He was Poretzger. He was the first one to jump into the sea. And this is the true sign of a Jewish leader. Are you prepared to be bold? Are you prepared to lead? I wish you all a Shabbat Shalom.